Young athletes with big stories. These sports stories are here to motivate, equip, and enlighten the next generation. You're listening to an Echo Sports production. Here's your host.
Hey everybody, it's your host Edwin Glosson for this week's episode of the Echo Sports Girls High School Hoops podcast, and we have a fantastic episode for you today. This week's guest has played her high school basketball at Georgetown High School in Central Texas under legendary and Hall of Fame coach Rhonda Farney. She went on to play collegiately at Concordia University, where she started for 3 years, and she was named captain for 3 years while she was there. She has 5 state tournament appearances at the TAPS level and 1 state tournament state title win there. Her teams at Bowie have been to the playoffs 10 out of the 12 years that she was there. She's now at Westlake High School, where the 2 years that she's been there so far, they've been to the playoffs, and last year made it to the regional tournament. This week's guest is head coach Vickie Benson. Thank you for joining me, Coach Benson.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Coach, one thing, because obviously by your playing resume, when I did some digging, you were a hooper. I can tell that you obviously had some game to you. And I'm just curious, what was your superpower?
Oh my gosh, my superpower. I'm just going to sum it up in one word. I would say perseverance. So it would be more of a character trait than I would say, that one piece right there really led to all of the other things I was able to do as a player.
So, but okay, I've got that. So you've got your perseverance, but what were the strengths of your game from a skill set standpoint? If someone was scouting you and they are putting you on the scouting board, what are they going to say about your game? We can't let her do this. She's going to kill us if we let her do that.
The ball's going in when she walks off the bus. Don't let her touch it. Don't let her see it. That's one thing that I took a lot of pride and heart in, was being a knockdown shooter. I held records at Concordia for free throw shooting, and I credit that to the hours and hours of free throw practice, being in the gym with Coach Farney as a young hooper, and then just spent a ton of time honing in on that craft. And I wanted to be able to be a threat from the three-point line, and definitely did that.
So speaking of Coach Farney, obviously legendary coach, Hall of Famer, won a lot of games at Georgetown. Was she the primary, one of the driving forces that helped you get the itch, or the calling rather, to become a coach?
I'd like to say she definitely was an influence, and Coach Farney is a dear friend of mine now. She's a mentor of mine, and really that mentorship in my coaching world came once I became a coach. Playing for her, it wasn't like, oh, I want to do what she does. It was, I loved basketball. I wanted to be around the game. It really wasn't until I was in college that I knew I wanted to coach basketball, and that I wanted to coach at the high school level. I GA'd for a year coming out of college, thinking that's the route that I wanted to go. But I really realized high school was such a crucial time in my life. It was such a pivotal, had a lot going on. I had a lot of, outside forces to deal with. And so that's the age I wanted to really dive into. And then, Rhonda just really took me under her wing, and she's been an advisor for me. We have conversations regularly, just about a lot of different things. So, not necessarily the reason why I did it, but definitely a huge piece while I decided to.
And, you mentioned her being a mentor to you now as a coach. And it sounds like, like all of us, I know that part of my high school experience is why I wanted to get into coaching originally, but what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from her, whether it was while you were a player or as a coach, that you implement into your program now at Westlake?
There's no cheat for work. If you want to be great, if you want to be excellent, you have to work at it. And that the quality of that work matters. It's not just the quantity. I think a lot of people think, well, I work really hard and I do all of these things, but those things that we choose to do really matter. And so, excellence is the standard. I definitely learned that from Coach Farney, and I'm going to strive to be excellent in everything that I do. I'd say one of the areas that she's really helped me the most is just dealing with situations that are out of my control. If there's just certain things we don't have control over. And just she's really helped me recognize what I can control and what I can't control. And culture matters. So that's another piece I take away from her. You have to decide what you want the culture of your program to be, and you have to work at it every day. It's not something you tell the kids; it's something you show them. And over time, it becomes the standard.
That's great stuff. I mean, like setting the standard in culture. I'm big on culture. I think that's huge. Now, shifting gears to your time at Concordia and that playing experience. I know sometimes some people, especially young people, can get into that, hey, it's D1 or bust, and hey, Division One's this level, and then Division Two, Division Three, NAI, they're this level. In your experience when you played at that level, what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions that are completely false that you've lived through and that you've seen for yourself?
When I went to Concordia that first year, Concordia was NAIA still. I didn't go Division three till that next year. But I'd say the biggest misconception is that you can't have a great playing experience, that you can't have a good basketball experience if it's not D1. I had an incredible experience there. It helped me grow so much. It shaped me into the coach that I am today. I had several different coaches actually there that it just kind of went through a lot of turnover after the coach that was there when I got there had been there for years and years and years. In fact, he just visited town a few weeks ago and came by a practice. I posted about it on my Instagram. He took a chance on me and gave me an opportunity, and I got to play college basketball, and if you love the game enough, it doesn't matter what level you do it at. If you have an opportunity to go and do it, go be great at it, learn from it, grow from it. I took a lot of life lessons from that experience in college, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I couldn't echo your sentiments more when it comes to that. I think thank you for sharing it. Hopefully there's some young hoopers there that are having opportunities that they're wrestling with and that they can use this nugget of knowledge to help them. Now, you were a GA for a year at Concordia before you ultimately decided that high school level was your calling to speak into young people that way. But, I mean, that's a great experience to learn a lot about the game and scouting and whatever. What are some of the biggest things that you might have learned while you were a GA that you still use today as a head coach, or that you added into your bag as a head coach when it comes to running your program?
Player-coach relationships matter. As a player, you see things one way, but as a coach, you see things so different. And being on both ends of that, being only 1 year removed from a player at that level and then going into a coaching role, it really mattered to the players to have a relationship, and to know that they were cared about and they weren't just a jersey number, that they actually had life going on outside of basketball. And I think that might be the biggest takeaway. I learned that I hated recruiting. I did not like it. I didn't want to travel all that. I didn't want to do all that. So that's one thing I did not like doing. But yeah, I just learned the relationship and connections with your players was really, really, really very important.
I have a question about just taking over at Westlake when it comes to coming in behind a very successful coach. Katie Hensel, a lot of respect around the state and really around the country. Did a very good job at Westlake. Now, obviously, you proven winner, winning a state title at Hyde Park, being to the state tournament on the TAPS level 5 straight times, getting the most out of your kids at Bowie, and helping kids go on to play in college while at Bowie, and getting to the playoffs 10 out of your 12 years there. So again, your resume is not one to be taken lightly, but still, I know from my experience coming behind a successful head coach, that can be tough getting kids to buy into your culture. So what were some of the challenges, if any, coming into this situation that you had to overcome?
Well, one, Katie and I are good friends, and we met when she moved to Austin and took the job at Westlake. I was at Bowie at the time, and we respected each other's success a lot. And not many people know this, and most people are surprised by it, but we probably talked every day, on the phone, especially during season, and we would kind of bounce ideas off of each other and chalk talk, if you will. So we had a unique relationship in that. And I think a lot of people are surprised oftentimes when, and I'm just going to say it, when two strong females are actually friends and they don't go at each other's head. You can be friends with one another, and we can celebrate each other's successes. And that's one thing that I think Katie would agree with. We just had that mutual respect for one another. It wasn't a hatred, and we were excited for each other's teams, except when we played each other. Obviously, we wanted to beat the other, but we rooted for one another. And I think that just helps a lot when you aren't threatened by somebody's success, but you can celebrate it. When I came to Westlake, I'm not the coach that's going to come in and bash the coach before me and say, well, everything she did was wrong and throw it out the window. Like I think that that's a mistake, to be that example for our players. I did come into a little bit of a unique situation, being that there were no seniors on the roster when I came. So that kind of really made that transition a little bit smoother, because I had kids that had only played for Katie maybe a year on the varsity. Some of them maybe had played for two. But like I said, that made it a little bit smoother. The one senior we did had a horrible injury going into her senior year and didn't get to play till the very end of the season. So, it was really a clean slate to be able to come in and start with whatever I wanted to bring to the table and really establish that culture for those kids who I was going to have for a full 2 years, So, Katie's a big supporter of mine. She's very happy for the success that I have here, and looking forward to whatever we do moving forward.
Having Coach Hensel and I we're not very close friends by any means, but definitely know Coach Hensel, and I think we've known each other for a couple of years. I think it also helps that you all both had a healthy confidence in the way that you did things and your self-assurance, and hey, I know what I'm doing. I know what we've done in the past, and then the fact that, so I think that plays a big part in not being able to see someone as a threat, because you're very secure as a coach and as a person in what you do, and definitely get that vibe from her whenever we talk basketball. So, this year you've got a different team. You lost, a fantastic backcourt in Bella Hesse, and then an elite shot maker and shooter in Gianna Angiolette, who's now playing at UTRGV. I know you have a talented roster with some talented young kids, but how are you all looking to replace that level of production and experience with this roster this year?
We look different, and I wouldn't necessarily say that we took steps backwards. I think in a lot of ways we've taken steps forward, because when you do graduate such a talented group, and they weren't the only two. I know they might have shown up more on the stats, but that entire senior class just brought so much leadership and accountability to our roster. And so it's really more about, our challenge this year has been just finding that leader, who is going to take the place of the leadership that we lost, or I'm going to say that we graduated. And that's really what we're coming into right now, is these younger, inexperienced leaders learning how to lead and how to do that at a high level. In terms of scoring and offensive production, we're really doing some great stuff. We share the ball really well. I mean, 8 games in, and I mean, we're averaging 13 or 14 assists per game. So we're averaging double-digit assists already, and we haven't even scratched the surface. So you can tell that the scoring's balanced. Like, it's just coming from every direction. I mean, we've got kids that can really shoot it. We've got kids that can really do damage in the paint. We've got kids that finish at the rim well. We run transition really, really well. So it's a variety of things that are going to replace what we graduated. But, like I said, I wouldn't really consider them steps backwards, but steps forward for the style of basketball that we want to play here at Westlake.
And, right now you mentioned having a younger team, having such a strong senior class with leadership as well as just production on the floor, in regards to not just the intangible things. What is it that you're emphasizing after 1 month into the season right now? Now you're into November. You kind of know that team and the way they compete a little bit. You've got 8 games underneath your belt. What is it that you and the coaching staff are emphasizing to the team right now?
Next level creation. So what I mean by that is I'm just, this might bite me in the butt later, but our basketball IQ is pretty high. And we've spent a lot of time to make sure that that we use our strengths to our strengths. When I came to Westlake, we're athletic, but we're not the track athletes. We're not going to get out and go run a 100-meter dash and beat anybody. So we don't need to try to force ourselves to be that style of basketball. But I've got kids that are in 4 AP classes, 5 AP classes, and they're really smart. And so if they're smart enough to learn in the classroom, then we are definitely smart enough to learn on the basketball court. So that's really, for the time since I've been here, it's been about building our basketball IQ and knowledge and understanding the game. I mean, we do skill development, but we really, really focus on how to utilize the skills that we have and how to pick apart a defense and how to be patient for what we want. And defensively be creative, just as creative as we are on the offensive end, and not just waiting to get the ball, like go get it, find ways to go get it. So when I say next level creation, that's what I'm talking about. We don't want to be the team that our first option didn't work and we have no plan B. Like, we want to have plan B and plan C and plan D and a counter for everything, and be able to make those reads. So next level creation is the emphasis right now. And they understand what that means.
I certainly want to nerd out with you for a second on this, because I love you mentioned a word I love talking about is reads. And from a basketball junkie perspective, what are some of the favorite ways that you help build that next level creation and just being able to make those 0.5 second reads, and when the play breaks down, what we can do to get open shots and just be able to play a little bit, just be able to hoop? That's what I would call, we got to be able to hoop. Just curious, what are some of the ways that you and your staff are working to do that with this young team?
So we break down everything we do into drill work. So, like, if I'm just going to make this up, let's say our offense has a lot of on balls in it. Let's say we're going to run a continuity, which we do some of that. So that's not it. That's not what we do, but those are some of the things we do. Well, we're going to put the game into smaller games on the floor. We're not
small-sided games.
Very, I'm not going to say it never happens. We do 5-on-5, but it's rare if you're going to come in and watch more than maybe a 15-minute 5-on-5 during our practice. Like, if we're trying to drill something. Now, if we're working on, scoring quick and then jumping into our press, then you're going to see us obviously go live that way. But we do a lot of numbers games and different sides of the floor or pieces of the court, because I want it to be familiar when they get into those spots on the floor that this is what we should be looking for and these are the reads we should be making. So that's just that's very broad in what I'm telling you, but that's one of the things that we do, is just break apart what we do into smaller chunks and pieces. Like, we do it if we're going to see a zone, let's say, and a lot of teams are running zone against us right now because we're really good in the paint, and they're trying to take that away. Well, we need to make sure they can't. And so I teach the kids how to do that and how to make those reads. And, again, taking up chunks of the floor, talking about, okay, here's what the defense looks like here. What do you see on the backside, or what do you see in this opportunity? How can you maneuver these pieces to get the ball where we want it? The other thing we do a lot of is numbers advantage or numbers disadvantage if we're working defensively. How much of the game is numbers advantage? But you have to create numbers advantage, and we teach them how to do that. Like, right here, this is a simple basketball 101 example, but if we're 2-on-2 in a transition mode, how can we create the 3-on-2 out of that? If people are trailing behind us, how can we make sure we don't stay wide, because you're going to stay 2-on-2. We talk about slicing the floor and filling behind or pitching it to the middle. We want to create numbers advantage, and our kids have really understand how to do that. I could keep going, but
no, I
probably
hear
have
you.
other things to talk about.
No, it's all good. I love that, Coach. I love small-sided games, love advantage, disadvantage situations. I could sit and watch that all day and just be like, and just eat popcorn, because I just think that's so great. You get more touches on the ball when you have those small-sided games. Yeah. We could go on, but I want to talk about TABC for a second. TABC, Texas Association of Basketball Coaches, for those that in other states or that don't know that acronym. I'm a huge fan of it. Everybody should support it. You don't just have to be a high school coach to be a member. But I love the coaching clinic that happens every spring that you all put on. But I know you are first vice president this year. What are some of your roles as a first vice president? That's one thing I've never really known, like the behind the scenes of the board. What is your role in that capacity?
So can I give you a brief how you come to be something like that? Because I think that's something a lot of people don't know.
Let's get into
And
that. Absolutely.
okay, because I get that question all the time. Well, I want to be that. Why am I not an option? So, TABC puts out every year on the membership when you register for your membership, there's an option to choose. I want to be involved with TABC. I checked that box one year. I did not know that it was going to lead to this one day, and I'm talking 15 years ago. I checked the box, and it started with I was a district rep first. So what that means is, our district, we have 7 teams in our district, and all my job was to make sure that to encourage all the district coaches to be members. And I would then, when we'd have our all district meeting at the end of the year, I would submit our top kids from our district to the TABC board for consideration for all region team, and then ultimately consideration for all state. So I'm just helping pick the best kids in our district based upon our all district meeting and submit those names. I did that for several years, and then I got asked to be a district rep. I mean, sorry, not a district rep, a regional coordinator. So I went from the person that submitted those names to the person who received those names for our entire region. At that point, myself and a group would work on ranking those kids and soliciting information from coaches about them, and then we'd put them in as the all region team, which eventually got selected for all state. Well, then I got chosen to be on the all state committee, which now I'm taking all of that in to help choose that. Because of that history and being responsible, taking ownership of it, doing my job, then I was asked to be on the board when a board spot opened up. So board positions are open for 3 years, filled for 3 years, and then old board member goes out, new board member comes in. And so I did that, got on the board right when COVID hit. That was my first year on the board. Totally eye-opening for me because I really didn't understand everything either. I just was a part of TABC because it was good for networking. I got to nominate my kids for stuff, and I like being a part of the memberships that I'm involved in. So being on the board, I realized how much our executive directors really do for the state of Texas in basketball. And, they get a lot of flack sometimes from, well, why aren't you doing this and why aren't you doing that? I'm telling you, they are working their tail off to be representative of what the coaches want. I watch them and I see it, and I've been a part of that as well. So, fast forward that, I was moving off the board. I thought I was done with TABC, and then I got voted in as second vice president to then be first to then be president next year. So there's the trail of how it works. But my role this year, I go to the board meetings. At clinic really is when my main duties happen. I'll assist the current president with whatever he needs, or she. It's currently a boys coach, alternates every year. So next year a girls coach will be president. The next year it will be a boys coach.
Do you don't automatically step into that seat? You're voted into presidency?
You're voted into second VP, which then puts you on the track to be president.
So the next rotation you will be the president?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So next, so the term ends for the current president after when the clinic happens. That's kind of like the end of that. And then in September, when we have our next board meeting, that's when the new president takes over. So I say take over. You don't take over. You just fill your spot.
Correct.
But I'd like to say that we're available as the vice presidents and the president to answer questions and to help be, I don't want to say a buffer, that's not the right word, but a sounding board for our executive directors. They have ideas or they want to do things, and the board and the executives, so the VPs and the president, we just help them think about the things that maybe they didn't think of, or we express what the larger community of coaches is saying at the time, and we just help push what our coaches really want. So the shot clock has been a big deal, and TABC has worked relentlessly on that. And we're closer, but we still need coaches to advocate to their superintendents when those polls come out in the spring that they want it, or we're not going to get it, and if we don't communicate with our administration and we don't get it, it could be a long time before the talk happens again. So we have to really work for that. The other thing is the showcase. I mean, Johnny Carter, he's our current executive director of TABC. He worked so hard for our state to be able to get that a scholastic event. We can coach our kids. At the legislative session just recently, they got the pilot is lifted off of everything. It's a full deal now. We also, we fought for the ability for our coaches to be able to use school funds for kids. I mean, this wasn't like not thought out. It wasn't like, hey, let's do a showcase and not think about all these things. And some of the very things that coaches were complaining about, we were already on the ground working for, but it's a process. And until you're a part of that process, you don't realize it. It's kind of like running an event. I run this tournament. If you never run a tournament, you don't understand what a big deal it is for somebody to call you a week before and say, hey, can you change my game time? Like, it's a lot harder than just to say that, that's not a knock on anybody. I'm just saying, I don't blame them because they don't know. They've never been in those shoes. So I'm glad we're talking about this. I hope it's educational. I hope people can learn a little bit about, I'm telling you how much that group really does work for basketball in the state of Texas.
You mentioned the showcase. My daughter's a sophomore, and she was able to play in that for the first time this past summer in June. And I want to tell you, the way that's run, I forgot the name of the facility in college, in the Bryan Legends. There we go. It just slipped my mind. A Legends facility in Bryan College Station. Beautiful facility. The matchups, they do a great job of creating parity where, you're really facing some good solid matchups. I mean, you see your kid has an opportunity to not only grow with their team, but to play in front of college coaches. If that's her or his dream, they have that opportunity there, and to do that within the role of their high school and another opportunity, another time for your high school coach to coach you. So that team, I could go on and on about how great I think that showcase is. So, hats off to those that all put in the hard work for that. Championship Productions is the industry leader in instructional videos for athletes and coaches. Whether it was skill development, or learning how to more effectively attack his own offense, or even performance training, I always felt like I leveled up my coaching game with every addition to my coaching library. So as a thank you for watching our content here at Echo Sports, I have a special offer for you. You can use the coupon code ECHO1010. That's all caps ECHOTEN10 for a 10% discount on all videos at championshipproductions.com. Now, this offer is only good through December 31st, 2024, so make sure to log on to championshipproductions.com to take advantage of this great offer and level up your coaching game today.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. Visit us online at echosports.org for more information.